Hi, this is Scott Sustachek, your host for CEO to CEO, the podcast from the CEO Roundtable. CEO Roundtable is a peer-to-peer organization that brings business leaders together to share wisdom, experience, and insights from the trenches. Today's episode is sponsored by IntroWorks, launching powerful B2B brands for more than 30 years. Learn more about them at intro.works. This is Scott Sustachek, and welcome to this episode of CEO to CEO. And I have got a longtime friend and great guest, Jaime Harris, with me today. Jaime, welcome.
Thanks, Scott, for having me.
And we're going to talk today about selling your company and all the things that go with it. And obviously, this is not a long podcast, so we're going to get into some issues somewhat deep and others probably very topically. This is a great story, I think, of somebody that bought a business. 2002, you founded it, right?
I founded it, yes.
And built it up from
zero. It's two guys in a beer fridge.
To 100 people?
Well, about over a little over 100 people, yeah.
Yeah.
And we almost hit about $40 million in revenue, and yeah, it's crazy.
And so it's a fantastic story, and I had the opportunity, because Jaime is on my roundtable, of getting the view of that from the inside. And so it's still, some of those meetings rank among my favorite at the roundtable.
Yes.
As you went through it. Maybe just talk, Jaime, a little bit about Hydra-Flex and your journey from nothing to 40 million in a transaction.
Yeah. So back in 2002, it was me and a co-founder, and we had figured out that we didn't want to work anymore for other people, and decided to found it in 2002. And it was just me, him, and in a beer fridge. We literally scratch, clawed, and bite right at the beginning in 2002, and it took us a few years before we started getting some momentum, and we really started to find a niche in some of the applications that we were doing, which was fluid handling. And applications were mostly in car wash at the time. And it didn't take us long where we started to figure out that if we could measure what we were doing and we could measure it and do it better than our competitors, we found ourselves winning. And sure enough, within about 5 years, things started to move. And I think I joined the CEO Roundtable back in 2010. So it's almost 14 years now. So we were probably at that $1 million revenue. And it was a difficult time. I was probably only 31 years old, trying to learn what to do. And I'm in a roundtable with a bunch of people who were there to genuinely help. And so, yeah, since 2010, roughly, I think, the roundtables helped me in so many different ways, all the way up to the transaction. And we sold in July of 2021. And it wasn't one of those thought out, hey, I'm gonna transact at that. It just a strategic buyer came by and was a customer of ours, and we just started talking. It was just something I couldn't pass up.
We want to talk today about selling your company, and we've obviously there's a lot of people out there considering transactions and thinking about, okay, how do I do this? When do I start thinking about it? And so I think if you can share with our listeners, when did you really start thinking about that exit? And then what did you do?
It was early on. I would say even before I joined the roundtable that I knew at some point we were going to exit and sell. I mean, that was one of our objectives. It wasn't going to be a legacy for our kids and such. It was to build it, grow it, and get it to a size to sell. Mm-hmm. And so having an engineering background, we systemized everything. And so that was probably one of the things that I started early, was understanding how to put the right SOPs and things in place that allowed us to scale. And when you put that sophistication in early and you keep doing it, it really makes, when a buyer comes by, you're pretty prepared. And as you know, our tagline was, what gets measured improves. Right. And so it was all over every wall in the building. And so we probably went overboard at times to be maybe more sophisticated than we needed to be. But, that those things, as we tried to scale, paid off. We put a lot of investments in early before we needed it. And I think that helped us for sure when the buyer came knocking. I think we were so ready that I've never heard of anybody close at the speed that we did. We closed in 27 days.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and so we were putting stuff in the data room and putting things there, and it was really easy. And we were also at a point where we hadn't enough staff. The executive team was there and supporting it, and so it wasn't just one or two people helping in that process. We had a pretty good sized team, and then the external team too, which we can go into how important that is to have external support from all of the areas.
So obviously you built the business to sell it, right? And so you probably walked into it saying, okay, we're going to do this for X number of years and we're going to transact. Which a lot of founders, though, are in different places, right? It's a family business, maybe a first generation, second generation, and they still have to start thinking about, okay, how would another owner view this business, and what are the steps I can begin taking today to get this business more saleable?
Yeah, and I think it might, from a standpoint of what business you're in, from a manufacturing and what we did, it was important for us is to continue that we were scalable, and everything that we did, we were able to demonstrate that we could keep going and going, and there was still a lot of runway for us, both in market penetration, our technologies, we had patents. I mean, we had a whole host of things that had a bright future, and so it was easy for us to look at it and say, at some point, when is it time? And literally, the conditions of the approach from the buyer, it just worked out. I had anticipated selling in 2027 when my girls graduated from high school. So one of those, I'm not ready to because I was too young, but read it. It was a great time and it was the perfect thing to do. But yeah, I'm still now what's next?
Well, and I think, the unique thing about your situation that I saw is whether you transact or not, you had set your business up for that. So if it happened at that time, great. If it happened 6 months or a year later, you're still ready to transact because of how you structured the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was easy for us because we had to put a lot of that in place. And it took time. It probably took 5-6 years of us grinding out things that we needed to get done. I mean, adding HR and adding all of the stuff that comes with, trying to manage over 100 people, all of those things that did early, and same with adding executive team early, and so there's a lot of things that we did that were probably before our time, but it paid off.
As you scaled the company and you thought about those things, where did you go to get advice on, okay, how do I make this business more of a transaction? And how do I make it attractive to a potential buyer? For sure.
And I think CEO Roundtable, and I was on a couple other peer groups as well. And that network, I mean, if the Roundtable didn't know, they for sure knew somebody who I could go contact. And so I didn't understand the transaction path until I was in the Roundtable. And for sure, got a lot of education and a lot of people that helped guide me through that and be prepared. It was a lot of things that I think came together.
So I want to change topics just a little bit now. So the actual sales process. So did you take this thing to market? Did you put a SIM together? How did that happen? And then how did you handle that 27 days of
So
fun?
It was a little bit of a customer, and they were acquired by a private equity, and so they were trying to consolidate and grab everybody they could in the marketplace, and that was specific to the car wash industry.
So this was somebody that knew you, that you did business with,
Correct.
right?
It was one of our biggest customers.
And I think that can happen fairly frequently, whether it's a customer or a vendor, that someone that knows you that says, hey, we really like that business.
For sure. And they had gotten some horsepower because they were acquired or bought by a private equity. And so then they were like, all right, who else can we buy? And so, our customer became the platform, and then we folded underneath them. And we had a very unique product offering that made us a little bit special in the industry. We were the leader in that technology. And we had strong patents, and so we had some pretty good picket fences around what we did.
So, and I've never asked you this, and I should have already, but so did they come to you and propose this, or did you go to them and say, "Hey, this would be a nice tuck-in"?
No, they came. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it took a while for me to warm up to the conversation, but then once it happened, it was like it was the right thing to do, and I'm glad I did it.
So your first thought was, I don't see it.
I'm not ready. I'm like, I had in my mind 2027 because that at that moment, the part of my life would be to be able to move on and my kids be out of high school. So it was like, okay, well, if it's going to happen, let's do it. And it was great. And I can't imagine anybody that goes through that process for very long. I mean, it's a tough, it's grinding to get through what you have to check all the boxes and get it all in there and do it while you're running your business.
Right.
You know, it's not like everybody shuts down and does it. So it's one of those added things you have to do, and it adds a little bit of stress. But yeah, the quicker you do it, obviously, the better it can be.
So when you made that decision to say, yeah, we're going to pursue this, who were the professionals you went out and said, okay, I need a team, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I had really good accounting support, everything from a person just for quality of earnings. I had, the tax and the regular business accounting side. They were great. I had the attorneys. I had a patent attorney and I had a business attorney. Yeah, I had an HR attorney. I mean, I had an outside staff that was very professional and that I had worked with, previously. So there wasn't like I had to go grab some advice from somebody I had been working with. So all of that stuff that I had done in the past with these companies paid off as they all came to the table and helped guide us. Of course, the banks were great. And so, yeah, it was a really good group of external consultants that really advised and partook in it.
And then what about internally? Because you can't just say, hey, tell everybody today we think we're going to sell this thing. So how did you build your internal team?
Yeah, so luckily at that moment we had a sizable executive team. So we had an ops and sales and HR and accounting, and so the executive team all were involved in the visibility of the transaction and what needed to get done, and that executive team did a great job of maintaining as much as business as usual while doing all that heavy lifting. And a lot of it was just getting the stuff that we had and getting it into the data room. And there really wasn't a lot of challenges. I've seen so many companies that get to a point which they get fatigued and it becomes a challenge. But ours, we didn't have any roadblock, nothing that really stopped the momentum.
This next question I'm going to ask you is really about taking care of your team. And this is like one of the favorite stories I think that I've heard you talk about. Because obviously you transacted the business. You're going to do well, right, as the seller. But you took care of your team too, and I think that the people that help get you that kind of valuation.
Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't anybody there that I didn't feel that helped us. Everybody helped us get that accomplished, and the growth that we had. I mean, we had a really good culture. It was, it's one of those feelings like you win the Super Bowl, and it's that team feeling, and everybody participated. And so I allowed and made sure everybody benefited from the transaction in some shape or form, and it was tiered based on a lot of things, but everybody got a piece of the action.
Right, and I think that. And did you do that? Because I don't remember if you had agreements in place ahead of time with some people, and actually some you did. As the thing was transacting, right?
Yeah. I think at the executive level, I had stock options and those things that were set up, and they all had some trigger points. And then, of course, for the rest of the profit sharing side of it, for everybody else, there was a percentage based on length of time and what role they played.
Right.
So,
yeah. Anything you do differently with that?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing better than that sense of pride and what we all accomplished, and everybody everybody benefited.
Right.
And so it was pretty cool. I mean, I still look back, and it's almost 3 years ago, and it's still like I said, I'm one of the most blessed people being able to do what I did, and a lot of people benefited.
Yeah, handing out those checks on that day had to be a really fun experience.
It was pretty cool, Scott. Not gonna lie. I mean, as you know, it's so much more fun to give than anything, right? So that part was pretty cool.
Well, and just to reward people for the effort, and it was probably 27 days of sometimes complete chaos, right? As you're trying to get this thing to the closing table.
Yep.
And then all the years of building it up.
Yep.
So now you've sold the company. You're 3 years in the rearview mirror.
Yep.
I think there's probably some good advice for our listeners on transaction and how do you think about because yours came so quickly, like you.
It did, and
like you didn't have time to prepare. Right?
I didn't have enough time to put a plan of saying, okay, post transaction, what am I going to do? I did stick around for over 2 years with them, and I was the executive chairman, and so that was doing what I could to help. I've now transitioned away from that. Now I'm in a position now where I'm looking to do what's next.
Yeah.
And so it's been 2.5 years before I've kind of popped my head up and said, okay, it's time to start looking and doing something. And who knows what that's going to be yet.
All right. Well, obviously we're both part of the CEO Roundtable, and I always ask guests, what decision did the Roundtable help you with that was the most impactful for you?
I was reflecting on that before we came here today, and I don't know that there's any one thing. I mean, I think that there's so many areas of the business that the Roundtable group helped me. You might say that on the personnel side and the people side, probably the most, as you ran into challenges, being able to bounce ideas off and really take some of the emotion out and get to a logical solution with some peers. On the personnel side, it was very valuable. On the strategy side, for sure. I mean, I don't know how many times we were all like, who's got the best strategic plan and what's the format? So there was always those discussions about what is the best format and framework and how do you do that? And they did help. There were many bits and pieces that I got out of the roundtable that helped pull together our strategic plan. And then just the networking. I mean, like I mentioned before on our consultants, you end up finding consultants and people who you want to work with through the network. So that's almost all of the people that I had utilized had come from the roundtable network or people who I knew. And they were the best ones because you kind of had them, they were referenced. You knew that they were solid consultants.
Yeah. Then I have 3 questions now that I ask every guest, just to give our audience a little better perspective of who Jaime Harris is. So what's your favorite movie?
No doubt, Band of Brothers from the HBO series. I mean, I love that whole series is phenomenal.
Okay, and what are you reading now?
I just lately picked up, it's called 10 times is easier than 2 times, or 10x is better than 2x. And it's just a mindset. I did that a lot when we were trying to build the business about shooting for the stars and just that mindset of doing something that's a stretch. And that book's pretty good. I'm only about a quarter through it, but it's a good book to try to get you to think bigger and faster and more efficient than you would normally.
And then the last one is your bucket list concert.
Yeah, I like Darius Rucker. I mean, that's still my guy. If I had to go listen to a concert,
that'd be the one.
I'd go hang out and listen to that all day.
Well, Jaime, this has been fantastic, and again, the selling your business is such a big topic. We've popped the top on a couple of things here, but there's so much more that we could keep going on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and it's been a fun ride, and maybe I'll come back when I figure out what I'm gonna do next.
We look forward to it.
Sounds good, Scott.
Thanks, Jaime.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the CEO to CEO podcast, produced by Dave Swerdlick and the incredible team at Uptown Podcast Studios. You can find them at uptownpodcast.com. Be certain to subscribe so you don't miss an episode with more CEO wisdom highlighting experience and insights from the trenches. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review and share with others. If you are a Minnesota-based business leader who would like to learn more about being part of a peer advisory roundtable, check us out at ceo-roundtable.org.